The sun was setting over New York City when Isabella Carter adjusted her pearl necklace in the mirror. At 45, her face reflected the determination that had led her to build her business empire from scratch. Her eyes, deep and serene, sparkled with anticipation of a special night with her daughter, Sophia, who had just turned 16. "Mom, I'm ready," Sophia called from her room. Isabella smiled as she saw her daughter appear in an elegant navy blue dress. The resemblance between them was undeniable. The same ebony skin, the same vivacious eyes, though Sophia had inherited curlier hair than her mother. "Are you sure you want to go to a Japanese restaurant to celebrate your birthday?" Isabella asked, while picking up her designer purse. "Of course. All my friends talk about Sakura. They say it's the best Japanese restaurant in the city," Sophia replied, her eyes shining with excitement. The ride in Isabella's black Mercedes passed with laughter and plans. Sophia talked non-stop about college, her dreams of studying law, following in her mother's footsteps before she became a businesswoman. Sakura appeared before them, an elegant building with minimalist lines in one of the city's most exclusive areas. As they crossed the glass doors, the atmosphere subtly changed. Conversations died down for a moment, and several gazes fixed upon them. Isabella, accustomed to being the only black woman in many board meetings, maintained her upright posture as she approached the reception desk. The receptionist, a young woman with straight black hair, looked at them with a mixture of surprise and confusion. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "Yes, under Isabella Carter," she responded firmly. The woman began typing on her computer, her fingers moving slower than necessary. "I'm sorry. I can't find any reservation under that name." Isabella took out her phone and showed the confirmation email. "Here's the confirmation. Made 2 weeks ago." The receptionist looked at the screen without touching the phone, as if afraid of contact. "There must have been an error in the system. Let me check with the manager." Minutes later, a man in a dark suit approached. His badge identified him as Richard Thompson, general manager. "Ma'am, I regret to inform you that we're completely booked tonight." Isabella looked around. Several empty tables were visible from her position. "I can see at least 3 available tables from here." "They're reserved," the manager responded curtly. "All of them?" asked Sophia, her voice trembling slightly. 2 security guards approached, their imposing presence creating an invisible wall between the Carters and the rest of the restaurant. "We're asking you to leave," one of them said, his tone making it clear it wasn't a suggestion. Isabella took her daughter's hand. "Let's go, Sophia. This isn't a place for us." As they walked toward the exit, Sophia squeezed her mother's hand. "Mom, why? Not here, sweetheart," Isabella whispered, keeping her head high as they crossed the doors. What neither of them noticed was Chris Reynolds, a food influencer, discreetly recording the entire scene with his phone from a nearby table. Back in the car, Sophia burst into tears. "Why did they treat us like that? What did we do wrong?" Isabella hugged her daughter, her heart torn between rage and pain. "We didn't do anything wrong, sweetheart. The problem isn't ours, it's theirs. But I promise you something. This won't go unchallenged." While driving back home, Isabella remembered her own mother's words. Sometimes, baby girl, rejection is just the first step toward change. At that moment, she didn't know how prophetic those words would prove to be. The next morning, Isabella's phone wouldn't stop vibrating. The video of the incident, posted by Chris Reynolds on his social media, had gone viral overnight. The footage, captured from a discreet but revealing angle, clearly showed the discrimination they had suffered. Sakura's elegance fails to hide its inner ugliness. "Last night I witnessed an act of discrimination that turned my stomach," read Chris's post, which had already accumulated thousands of shares. Isabella observed her phone while having her morning coffee. Dozens of supportive messages were coming in from business colleagues, friends, and strangers. Among them, one stood out from Elena Williams, a prominent black journalist from the Daily Wake. "Good morning, Mrs. Carter. What happened to you is unacceptable. Could we talk? It's time to expose these discriminatory practices in elite establishments." Sophia entered the kitchen, her eyes still puffy. "Mom, did you see Twitter? Everyone's talking about what happened." "Yes, sweetheart. The truth always finds its way. Sakura tried to control the damage by publishing an official statement. We deeply regret the misunderstanding that occurred last night. Due to a technical error in our reservation system, we were unable to properly accommodate the customers. Sakura prides itself on being an inclusive establishment. The public response was immediate and devastating. Comments flooded social media. Technical error. I saw the empty tables in the video. Inclusive? Then why did they call security? Boycott Sakura. By mid-morning, Isabella received an anonymous email. Dear Mrs. Carter, I've worked at Sakura for 3 years. What happened to you wasn't an isolated incident. We have specific instructions about maintaining a certain customer profile. Several employees are sick of these discriminatory policies, but we fear losing our jobs. If you're willing to hear more, we can meet in a safe place. A concerned employee. Isabella stared at the screen, her fingers drumming on her office desk. Years of business experience had taught her to recognize opportunities in crises. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. Robert, I need you to investigate something. I want to know everything about Sakura's financial situation, its owners, debts, everything. Meanwhile, Elena Williams published her first article about the incident, The Mask of Elitism, when racism is served as the main course. The article detailed not only what happened at Sakura, but also similar cases in other luxury establishments across the city. Sophia, inspired by the social media movement, created her first TikTok, My Sweet 16 and the Racism I Didn't Expect. The video, emotional and sincere, went viral within hours. By evening, Robert called Isabella. Boss, I have the information. Sakura is in financial trouble. Reservations have dropped 60% since this morning. Plus, they have a significant loan due in 2 months. Isabella smiled, a smile that her business competitors had learned to fear. Perfect. Schedule a meeting with my lawyer for first thing tomorrow. And Robert, keep this absolutely confidential. That night, while having dinner with Sophia at home, her daughter looked at her curiously. Mom, I know that look. What are you planning? Sometimes, sweetheart, the best way to change an unfair system is from within, replied Isabella, her eyes gleaming with determination. And I think it's time for Sakura to learn that lesson. The boardroom at Sakura was tense. Akio Tanaka, the principal owner, a 70-year-old man who had built his culinary empire from Japan, observed the red numbers on the screens with concern. Reservation cancellations had multiplied, and several major investors had withdrawn their support. How did you allow this to happen? Tanaka asked Richard Thompson, who shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Before he could respond, the door opened. Isabella Carter entered, followed by her legal team. Her white suit dramatically contrasted with her skin, a deliberate choice that made her impossible to ignore. Mr. Tanaka, she greeted with a perfect bow, surprising everyone present. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Richard paled. What is she doing here? Silence, Thompson, ordered Tanaka. Continue, Mrs. Carter. Isabella placed a folder on the table. I'm here to present an offer to purchase Sakura. The silence that followed was deafening. Tanaka took the documents and studied them carefully. Your offer is generous, he finally admitted. Sakura is a prestigious establishment, despite its recent controversies, Isabella responded. My intention is to preserve its culinary essence while implementing necessary changes in its organizational culture. Richard stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. You can't. Sit down, Thompson-san, interrupted Tanaka. His eyes never left Isabella. Why? Because I believe in transformation, she replied. Sakura can be more than an exclusive restaurant. It can be an example of how excellence and inclusion are not mutually exclusive. Tanaka remained silent for several minutes. Finally, he pulled a pen from his jacket. My father always said that true honor lies in recognizing our mistakes and allowing others to help us correct them, he said while signing the documents. Sakura is yours, Mrs. Carter. News of the acquisition spread like wildfire. Employees gathered in small groups, whispering among themselves. Sarah Martinez, an experienced manager who had previously been rejected for the head of customer service position for not fitting the restaurant's image, received an unexpected call. "Sarah, this is Isabella Carter. I'd like to discuss a job opportunity with you." At home, Sophia hugged her mother tightly. "You bought the restaurant that discriminated against us?" "No, sweetheart. I bought the place where we'll start changing things." However, not everyone received the news with optimism. In the kitchen, Andrew, the supervisor, crumpled a paper with the new inclusion policies. "This will destroy everything we've built," he muttered to Martha, the reception supervisor. That night, Isabella received an anonymous envelope in her office. Inside, a note cut out from newspapers. "Some traditions shouldn't be changed. Back off while you can." But Isabella Carter hadn't come this far by backing down. She took the envelope and filed it in a folder labeled Motivation. The first day under new management was approaching, and with it, a battle that went far beyond gastronomy. It was a fight for dignity, respect, and the right to occupy spaces that had long been closed to people like her. Real change, thought Isabella, as she reviewed the renovation plans. Begins when we refuse to accept that closed doors must remain that way. The first week under Sakura's new management was like navigating turbulent waters. Sarah Martinez, now head of customer service, faced passive resistance at every turn. Former employees forgot the new policies. Reservations mysteriously got lost, and wait times lengthened inexplicably for certain customers. "We can't prove it's deliberate," Sarah explained to Isabella during a morning meeting. "But there's a pattern." Isabella observed the restaurant from the main office, formerly Richard's domain. The walls, previously decorated with black and white photographs of Tokyo, now displayed a mix of traditional Japanese art and works by contemporary American artists, including several African Americans. "How's the implementation of the new training program going?" Isabella asked. "Andrew and his kitchen team are resisting. They say they don't need moral lessons," Sarah responded, frustrated. At that moment, Martha, the reception supervisor, knocked on the door. Her face showed an unusual paleness. "Mrs. Carter, you need to see this," she said, extending her phone. It was a WhatsApp message from her cousin Lisa. "How can you keep working at a place that discriminates against us? I saw the video. Do you know how many people like me have been turned away from that restaurant? I thought you were different, cousin." Martha collapsed into a chair, her hands trembling. "I never saw it that way. I was just following orders." "Sometimes," Isabella said softly, "we need someone close to show us our reflection in the mirror." In the kitchen, Andrew supervised lunch preparation when he found a forgotten folder in a drawer. Upon opening it, his eyes widened. They were printed emails between Richard and various suppliers, revealing a scheme of overcharging and systematic discrimination in staff hiring. "Chef," called Marcus, one of the senior cooks, "is everything all right?" Andrew quickly closed the folder. "Yes, everything's fine," but it wasn't. That night, after closing, Andrew stayed reviewing the documents. The evidence was clear. The former manager hadn't just discriminated against customers, he had been stealing from the restaurant for years. Meanwhile, at the Carters' home, Sophia was showing her mother the comments on her social media. Thousands of young people were sharing their own experiences of discrimination in luxury establishments. "Mom, they're organizing a peaceful demonstration in front of the restaurant for the weekend," said Sophia. "A demonstration?" Isabella frowned. "Of support, Mom. They want to show their backing for the changes you're implementing." Isabella's phone vibrated. It was a message from an unknown number. "Abandon this project or you'll regret it. Sakura has traditions that must be respected." Isabella blocked the number without flinching. She had faced worse threats on her path to success. The next day, during dinner service, an incident shook the restaurant. A black family was welcomed with the best table and exquisite treatment by Martha, who had spent the previous night reflecting on her cousin's message. "What do you think you're doing?" Marcus whispered to Martha during a quiet moment. "The right thing," she responded, standing tall for the first time in a long time. In the kitchen, Andrew observed the scene while holding the folder with the evidence. A battle was raging inside him. Maintain the status quo or be part of the change. Sarah, noticing his conflicted expression, approached. "Everything okay in the kitchen, Chef?" Andrew looked at the folder, then at Sarah. "I need to speak with Mrs. Carter. It's important." Isabella's office had become a sanctuary of change when Andrew entered that morning. The incriminating folder clutched to his chest like a bomb about to explode. "Mrs. Carter," he began, his voice graver than usual, "I found something you need to see." As Isabella reviewed the documents, her expression remained serene, though her eyes revealed growing indignation. The emails not only exposed financial corruption, but also an elaborate system of codes to identify and reject undesirable customers. Code Ebony, reject with reservation excuse, Isabella read aloud. Code Bronze, distant table, slow service. Sarah, who had been called to the meeting, clenched her fists. "That's why I was never promoted, regardless of my qualifications." "There's more," said Andrew, pulling out more papers. Richard kept a detailed record of prevented incidents, as he called them, every time they managed to prevent people from certain groups from entering the restaurant. He logged it as a success. Isabella stood and walked to the window. Below, the restaurant was beginning to prepare for the day's service. "Why are you showing me this now, Andrew?" "Because," he hesitated, "because I realized I was part of the problem. My silence makes me complicit." At that moment, Martha burst into the office, her face pale. "Mrs. Carter, someone hacked our reservation system. All of tonight's reservations have been cancelled." The sabotage was evident. While the technical team worked to restore the system, Isabella received a call from Eleanor Williams, the journalist. "Mrs. Carter, I have information about a group of former Sakura employees organizing a smear campaign. They plan to leak false stories about mismanagement under your administration." "Let them come," Isabella responded calmly. "I have something better, the truth." That afternoon, during an emergency meeting with all staff, Isabella did something unexpected. Instead of giving a speech, she projected photographs, her mother working as a domestic worker, herself selling candy on the street to pay for her law studies, her first case as a lawyer defending discriminated workers. "Sakura isn't just a restaurant," she finally said. "It's a symbol of what we want to change in our society. Every dish we serve, every customer we attend to, is an opportunity to demonstrate that excellence has no color." Marcus, the cook who had been resisting the changes, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Isabella's story reminded him of his own mother, who had also faced discrimination. Meanwhile, Sophia had organized a surprise flash mob in front of the restaurant. Dozens of young people from diverse ethnic backgrounds performed a choreography that mixed traditional Japanese dances with African-American rhythms. The video instantly went viral. The new face of Sakura, where tradition embraces diversity. That night, during service, something extraordinary happened. Despite the hack, the restaurant was full. Old and new customers, learning about the sabotage through social media, arrived in solidarity. The kitchen, under Andrew's leadership, worked with renewed precision and passion. Martha at reception greeted each customer with a genuine smile, without hidden codes or discrimination. Sarah supervised the service with pride, noting how younger employees followed her example of inclusive professionalism. At the end of the night, Isabella found another anonymous note on her desk, but this time it was different. "Thank you for showing us that change is possible." An employee who's no longer afraid. The transformation of Sakura was beginning to show its fruits, but also its thorns. One morning, Sarah arrived early to find graffiti at the restaurant's entrance, "Traitors to tradition," and "Excellence isn't for everyone." While employees cleaned the walls, Andrew approached Sarah. "We have another problem. Some suppliers are mysteriously delaying our deliveries, especially those who had special deals with Richard." Upon learning this, Isabella called an emergency meeting with her management team. "We need to diversify our suppliers," she declared, "and I have an idea." That afternoon, Isabella visited several local markets, seeking small producers who had never had the opportunity to supply luxury restaurants. Among them, she found Mary, an Asian American farmer who grew high-quality organic vegetables. "Am I produce at Sakura?" asked Mary, incredulous. "But we're too small." "Excellence knows no size," replied Isabella, "only quality." Meanwhile, In the kitchen, Marcus was planning his last act of resistance. For that night's dinner, an important food critic had reserved a table. Marcus knew that a bad review could be devastating. What he didn't expect was for Andrew to catch him altering the preparation of the main course. "What do you think you're doing?" asked Andrew, his voice calm but firm. "Maintaining standards," Marcus responded, defiant. "No, you're destroying everything Japanese cuisine represents. Respect, honor, excellence. Do you think ruining a dish makes you a better chef, a better person?" Andrew's words hit Marcus like a hammer. His hands trembled as he held the adulterated ingredient. At that moment, Sarah entered the kitchen. She had heard everything. "Marcus, you're fired." News of the sabotage attempt spread quickly among the staff. To everyone's surprise, it was this incident that finally united the team. The cooks, who had remained neutral, began to speak about their own experiences with discrimination. Sophia, who had been documenting the restaurant's transformation on her social media, published a series of interviews with employees titled Voices of Change. Among them, Peter's story stood out. A dishwasher who was now being trained as an assistant chef. "Before, we couldn't even dream of advancing," Peter said in the video. "Now, our talent is all that matters." The public response was overwhelming. Reservations increased, especially among a more diverse clientele than ever. Sakura was becoming a symbol of social transformation. However, the threats continued. One night, Isabella found a photo of Sophia leaving her school, with a red X drawn across it. The message was clear: the fight would have a personal cost. But Isabella Carter hadn't come this far by letting herself be intimidated. That night, during dinner with her daughter, she made a decision. "Sophia, remember when you asked me why I bought the restaurant?" "Yes, Mom. The real reason is that some battles need to be fought from within, and sometimes the price of change is high. But the cost of remaining silent is even higher." Sophia took her mother's hand. "Are you afraid?" "No, sweetheart. I have hope. And hope is stronger than fear." That night, as Sakura closed its doors, something had changed in the air. The resistance was still present, but now it was overcome by a more powerful force: the collective determination to do what was right. One rainy morning, Martha found her cousin Lisa waiting at the restaurant's entrance. The encounter she had been avoiding finally arrived. "What are you doing here?" asked Martha, nervous. "I came to see if the changes are real," replied Lisa, her expression serious but curious, "and to understand how my cousin, who always avoided talking about our roots, continues working here." Martha invited her cousin inside. The restaurant was in full preparation for lunch service. Sarah, seeing the two women, approached. "Good morning," Sarah greeted. "Is this your cousin?" "Yes," replied Martha, "the one who made me open my eyes." Sarah smiled. "Would you like a tour of the new Sakura?" During the next hour, Lisa observed the changes, the diverse staff, the new artwork, the different energy in the atmosphere. In the kitchen, Andrew directed a multi-ethnic team with precision and respect. "See that girl?" Martha pointed to a young apprentice chef. Before, she wouldn't have even made it through the door. Now she's learning directly from Andrew. Lisa observed everything with critical but increasingly surprised eyes. "It's different from what I expected." At that moment, Isabella entered the restaurant. Seeing Lisa, she approached. "You must be Martha's cousin," she said with a smile. "The catalyst for change." "Excuse me?" "Your message to Martha was one of the decisive moments in our transformation. Sometimes we need someone close to show us the truth." While they were talking, a group of Japanese executives entered the restaurant. They were representatives from a prestigious culinary association in Tokyo, come to evaluate the changes at Sakura. The tension was palpable. This could be the moment that would either legitimize or condemn the new direction of the restaurant. To everyone's surprise, it was Martha who took the initiative. With a perfect blend of Japanese protocol and American warmth, she guided the group to their table. Andrew had prepared a special menu that fused traditional Japanese techniques with local ingredients from the new suppliers. Lisa, who had stayed to observe, saw something extraordinary. Her cousin, previously so insecure about her identity, now moved with confidence and pride. During service, one of the Japanese executives called Isabella to their table. "Carter-san," said the eldest of the group, "we have observed your changes with interest. Some in Japan were concerned." Isabella maintained her composure, waiting for the verdict. "But," the man continued, "we see that you have achieved something remarkable. You have preserved the essence of our cuisine while making it accessible to all. This is true. Omotenashi, Japanese hospitality." The relief was immediate. The approval of the Japanese executives was a masterful blow against those who argued that the changes were destroying tradition. That afternoon, Lisa hugged her cousin before leaving. "I was wrong," she admitted. "You're not following the system. You're helping to change it." Martha, with tears in her eyes, held her cousin's hands. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Andrew found a different anonymous note. "Thank you for showing that change begins in the kitchen. A chef in Tokyo." The day ended with a special dinner where the staff shared their stories. Sarah spoke about her years of struggling against the glass ceiling. Andrew confessed his initial prejudices and how he had learned to overcome them. Martha shared her family's story. Isabella observed everything from a corner, satisfied. Sakura wasn't just changing as a business. It was transforming lives, healing old wounds, and creating unexpected connections. Sometimes, she thought, as she watched her team laugh and share, true tradition isn't keeping things as they are, but evolving without losing the soul. Sakura's success had begun to attract national and international attention. Culinary magazines, television programs, and specialized media wanted to cover the transformation story. However, with the light came the shadows. One morning, Sarah found her office ransacked. Important files about the new hiring policies had disappeared, along with documents detailing previous discriminatory practices. "Someone wants to erase the evidence," commented Andrew, examining the scene. Isabella remained calm. "Fortunately, we have digital copies of everything." But that was just the beginning. That same week, their food blog published an article titled "The Fall of Standards: How the New Sakura Sacrifices Excellence for Inclusion." The anonymous author cited supposed complaints from former customers and culinary critics. Sophia, who continued documenting the transformation on social media, was the first to notice something strange. "Mom, look at this," she said, showing her tablet. "All the negative reviews use exactly the same phrases." As if someone had written them following a script. Elena Williams, the journalist who had been following the story from the beginning, started investigating. She discovered that the blog was funded by a group of luxury restaurants that feared Sakura's success would force them to change their own discriminatory policies. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, an unexpected crisis arose. Several of the new suppliers, including Mary, the Asian American farmer, reported pressures to stop supplying Sakura. "I've been offered double to sell exclusively to other restaurants," Mary confessed to Isabella. "But I won't abandon you. You believed in us when no one else did." The loyalty of the new suppliers strengthened Isabella's determination. It was time to counterattack. She organized a special dinner called Flavors of Diversity, inviting food critics, influencers, and journalists. Each dish told a story, ingredients from small producers transformed into high Japanese cuisine, fusing traditions and cultures. During dinner, Andrew presented his new creation, Harmony in Black and Gold, a dish that combined Japanese techniques with African-American ingredients. The impact was immediate. Critics were amazed by the innovation and respect for tradition. Sarah had coordinated the service with military precision. Each server knew the story behind every dish, every ingredient, every producer. The experience wasn't just gastronomic, it was cultural. In the middle of the event, Richard, the former manager, unexpectedly appeared at the restaurant. Everyone held their breath, expecting a confrontation. "Mrs. Carter," he said, his voice trembling, "I've come to apologize." Silence fell in the dining room. Richard continued, "What I did, was wrong. Seeing what you've accomplished here has made me rethink many things." Isabella looked at him steadily. "Apologies are a beginning, Richard, but real change requires action." "I know," he responded. "That's why I've also come to deliver this." He pulled out a folder. It's all the evidence of the discrimination network in other luxury restaurants. Names, dates, written policies. The revelation hit the restaurant industry like a bomb. Eleanor Williams published an extensive report exposing how discrimination was a systematic practice in the luxury sector. That night, after the last customer left, the staff gathered in the kitchen. Martha brought sake for everyone and amazake, non-alcoholic sake, for those who didn't drink alcohol. To the true Sakura, Andrew toasted. To change, added Sarah. To us, completed Martha. Isabella watched her team with pride. The storm had come, but instead of destroying them, it had made them stronger. 6 months after Sakura's transformation, Isabella organized a special meeting. The restaurant had closed early, and the complete team was gathered in the main dining room, including new employees and suppliers. Today, we not only celebrate our success, Isabella began, but we initiate the next phase of our transformation. She projected plans of what appeared to be a school on the screen. I present to you the Sakura Culinary Academy. Whispers of surprise filled the room as Isabella explained, a training center that would offer full scholarships to young people from marginalized communities, teaching them not only Japanese cuisine, but also hospitality management and business leadership. And I want you to be the teachers, she added, looking at her team. Andrew was the first to step forward. So it will be an honor to pass on what we've learned, Sarah smiled. We won't just be teaching cooking, right? We'll be teaching dignity. Sophia, who had been documenting the entire transformation process of Sakura, presented a short documentary titled Revolution in the Kitchen. The images showed the before and after, but more importantly, they showed the personal stories of transformation. In the video, Mary, the Asian American farmer, appeared in her field. Now other restaurants seek us out. Sakura gave us visibility, but more importantly, it gave us respect. Martha and her cousin Lisa appeared together. Change begins when we dare to question what we've always accepted as normal. The surprise of the night came when Akio Tanaka, the former Japanese owner, appeared via video call from Tokyo. Carter-san, he said with a bow, I have followed the changes at Sakura with great interest. What you have achieved goes beyond my expectations. Therefore, I want to announce that the Association of Traditional Japanese Restaurants has decided to award Sakura the Innovation in Tradition Prize. It was an unprecedented recognition. The award not only validated the changes, but celebrated them as a necessary evolution of tradition. During the celebration, Isabella noticed Peter, the former dishwasher, now assistant chef, teaching a group of young apprentices. So the kitchen knows no color, only passion, he was telling them. Sarah approached Isabella. You know, when we started this, I thought it was about changing a restaurant. Now I see it's about changing mindsets. And hearts, added Isabella, watching as Andrew embraced his multicultural kitchen team. Sophia, who had grown alongside Sakura's transformation, shared her plans. Mom, I want to study law like you, but also culinary arts. I want to continue this legacy. The night progressed, and the team shared stories and dreams. Mary had brought products from her farm for a special tasting. The new apprentices presented innovative fusions of traditional dishes. Martha, who had once been part of the discriminatory system, now trained new staff in inclusive service protocols. Excellence doesn't discriminate, was her motto. Isabella observed everything with satisfaction. Sakura had become more than a restaurant. It was a movement, a symbol of change, a beacon of hope. True success, she thought as she watched her team celebrate, isn't measured in Michelin stars or food reviews. It's measured in transformed lives. Exactly 1 year after that night, when Isabella and Sophia were discriminated against at Sakura, the restaurant shone with a different light. The doors opened for a special celebration, the official inauguration of the Sakura Culinary Academy and the first anniversary of the transformation. The main dining room had been renovated, fusing traditional Japanese elements with touches of various American cultures. On the walls, black and white photographs told the story of the transformation, the old Sakura, the protests, the changes, and the faces of those who made the revolution possible. Isabella, dressed in an elegant suit that combined Japanese and African design elements, watched as guests arrived. Among them, the first scholarship students of the academy, young people from diverse backgrounds who would never have dreamed of accessing elite culinary education. Sarah approached with a tablet. The numbers for the year are incredible. Reservations have increased by 200%. And applications for the academy exceed all expectations. And the mentoring program? Asked Isabella. Complete. Each student has a mentor from the current team. Andrew is especially excited about his group. In the kitchen, Andrew directed a culinary symphony. Students worked alongside experienced chefs, creating dishes that told stories of fusion and respect. The night's menu was special. Each dish represented a key moment in Sakura's transformation. Martha and Lisa, now partners in a project to document and combat discrimination in the restaurant industry, greeted guests. Their initiative had already inspired changes in other luxury establishments. Sophia, who had grown tremendously during this year, presented a new documentary, Sakura, Recipes for Change. The film not only showed the restaurant's transformation, but also the personal stories of those who found their voice and their place in the new Sakura. During dinner, Mary, now the main supplier and sustainability advisor, shared how her community had flourished thanks to the alliance with Sakura. Other small producers told similar stories of empowerment and growth. The culminating moment came when Isabella took the microphone. "A year ago, my daughter and I were turned away at these same doors. That rejection could have silenced us, but instead, it gave us a voice. Today's Sakura isn't just a restaurant. It's living proof that change is possible when we dare to dream and act. The academy we inaugurate today," she continued, "will not only train exceptional chefs, but leaders who understand that true excellence is born from inclusion and respect." Andrew then presented the final dish of the night, Hope in Bloom, a dessert that combined Japanese techniques with traditional American ingredients. Each element represented an aspect of transformation: resistance, change, growth, and renewal. As diners enjoyed the dessert, Elena Williams, who had followed the story from the beginning, shared news. Her report on Sakura's transformation had won an International Journalism Award. "But the real prize," said Elena, "is seeing how this story has inspired changes throughout the industry." At the end of the night, when the last guests had left, Isabella and Sophia remained alone in the dining room. The same space that had once rejected them was now their second home. "Mom," said Sophia, "remember when you asked if I wanted to eat somewhere else that night?" Isabella nodded. "I'm glad we came here, not for what happened, but for what we built afterward." Mother and daughter embraced as dawn began to peek through Sakura's windows. A new day was beginning, bringing with it the promise of more changes, more growth and more hope. At the restaurant's entrance, a new sign softly glowed: Sakura, where tradition embraces change.